Welcome, listeners and watchers on the wall, to another AfterBuzz TV after show for Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 6, the series finale. You guys, we're going to be talking the highly anticipated climax of one of the most popular television shows in history. We're going to be talking the breaking of the wheel and the aftermath of the last war. We're going to be talking the Iron Puddle. And we're going to be talking Bran the Broken and the new Stark legacy that we're left with at the end of the show. But until we get there, stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, is that music? No, we reject that music and substitute our own. Bum bum ba-da-dum, bum ba-da-dum, bum ba-da-dum, bum. Thank you. You get in there right there with me.
This one's dancier though. I kind of like the beat.
Yeah, I love it.
There it is. There we are.
Oh, last time we're gonna hear it.
There's
No way.
So
No
sad.
way.
It's so sad. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ryan Malaty, your host for this episode, for this evening, and I am joined by the best panel a guy could ever ask for. To my left is Anna K. Thomas. She is obsessed with the inner and outer workings of the show, and she's got great news and gossip for us.
Sure do.
We have Kristen Elizabeth Snyder, who has been hosting this show for many, many, many moons, and has a family filled with circus folk who are just as magical as she is.
Also, tonight I'm wearing the strangler around my neck.
Filled with the strangler. I guess you got Tears of Lys in there, maybe a little Milk of the Poppy. And to
Mother's
her
Mercy.
left, we have Sir Jeremy Dann, Lord and Commander of USC Business School. And he is one of the most in-depth minds as far as battle strategies go. I mean, he is the war council. He is the master of war. Jeremy Dann, thank you for joining us.
Can I be on the new small council? Is there a spot for me?
The small
This is as
council.
small as it gets. We also have Steven in the booth, who may or may not be joining us. He's the one engineering our show live. Guys, we're sitting here at AfterBuzzTV.com, also YouTube.com/AfterBuzzTV Sci-Fi. You guys, we're going to jump right in.
We just got a title.
What's
What
the
is
title?
The Iron Throne.
Is it really?
Oh.
Welcome to the after show for Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 6, The Iron Throne. Here
Or
we
lack
go.
of there.
Or lack thereof.
The Iron Puddle.
The Iron Puddle. We have awesome topics to talk about on this episode, but before we do, let's just get it out of our system. What's your favorite moments from this episode, you guys?
Okay, obviously John killing Danny. I was so happy he did it. Like, everybody's like, it's not going to be him. He can't do it. It's going to be Arya. Well, you were wrong. You lose.
You called it. You lose. She actually did call it right before the episode. We have this. We watch it together, and we're filmed watching it, called the Watch-Alongs. If you ever get bored and want to rewatch the series or want to watch your favorite episode alongside with us, be sure to check that out. Just Google, the Watch-Along. But you did call it. You're like, John's gonna kill her.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
And you'll see what my prediction is in the Imp Cup shortly.
The Imp Cup. We'll get to that in a bit. Any other favorite moments?
Yeah, John's visit to Tyrion in the cell, or I don't know if that was the cell or if it was the old winery or something.
Yeah.
It looked like there were a lot of casks around, like
Yeah.
maybe Tyrion had spent some quality time there in years before. But it was great lines, the lines about duty and love, and they were hearkening back to so many things we've seen in some of the themes in the show. And Dinklage's performance in the first half hour of the show and in that scene in particular were amazing. So that was a favorite for me.
Awesome. It really was cool. I really enjoyed it.
So good. Okay, I'm changing mine to Drogon melting the Iron Throne and turning it into an Iron Puddle. It was just too good.
That was so
It just like
cool!
culminates
Yeah.
everything in the entire series.
I
and,
agree.
breaking the wheel. So
I love it. Anything with a dragon is my favorite moment too. I'm gonna have to agree with you guys.
Wait, even last episode?
Yes. I mean, I was like, Danny, you're crazy, but this is so cool. Keep doing it. Guys, our first topic of this episode we're calling Breaking the Wheel. It's something that Danny had been spouting kind of all series long, and I don't know, I guess the argument could be made, like, is the wheel actually broken, or is it just a new kind of wheel? We'll get to that. Let's just talk, though, about the fact that Danny just won this last war, and now she's dead. And in the aftermath of the war, how did we lead up to that point, and what this new wheel that she was crushing over, all of her enemies with, now it's broken. Let's start with the last war aftermath. She's standing there with a big army of Unsullied.
I mean, we're
3,000 Dothraki.
Yeah,
Still alive.
half the armies, I guess you could say.
yeah, it keeps being half. They use
Yeah.
their fractions in this show very well. I think we're meant to believe. I mean, we heard her speech. We heard about freeing additional people all over Westeros and all over the world. And we knew that this was probably worse than the wheel, what she envisioned. I mean, we saw the carnage, the apocalypse, and that apocalyptic look out there. And every viewer, no viewer was meant to feel comfortable with that. Dany was the one that was the only one that felt this is a new, grand, beautiful vision. And she described that to John later about seeing that, and she could envision that beauty.
Yeah.
I mean, what we saw is basically her victory speech to all of us was basically a declaration of war, if you will. I mean, her talking about freeing all the people in the other lands. I mean, there wasn't like there was another tyrant like Cersei that people needed released from.
Yeah,
like
who is she talking about?
Yeah, she,
Edmure Tully.
but like Tyrion said, every time she's killed an evil man, that's empowered her. Like, we've told her, great job. Like, we've been the ones to empower her and make her think like she's doing a good thing.
Right.
And she
Everywhere she
believes.
goes, evil men die,
that
and we
she-
cheer her for it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So she thinks that she was going to continue doing something good, but that wasn't necessarily the case in Westeros. It wasn't the same as it was in Essos.
Yeah.
I found the line you just said very powerful because that's from the scene in the jail. And that harkened back to when they talk about from the Second World War of, first they came for the gypsies, but I wasn't a gypsy. Then they came for the Jews, and I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the Catholics. I wasn't a Catholic.
Right.
And it was a similar kind of parallel in the timing of that made you think she was a nihilist and apocalyptic in
you
the
didn't
same
quite
way.
see it when she draped her Targaryen flag over, the pyramid at Marine. But when she did it this time, it seemed like, you couldn't help but like draw, parallels to other tyrants throughout our history. Hitler, Nazis. It was like this big black and red symbol over the death and carnage. You're just like, wow, I got a lot of red flags, literally popping up. We open up the episode with Tyrion and Jon and Davos, who we could all kind of agree at this point are on the moral right, the moral side of things, and through their eyes we see all this just destruction. I don't know how Dany could stand up there and be like, we did it, and there's like nothing left.
Yeah, John
of
even
King's
says,
Landing.
did you walk down there? And obviously she didn't. There were little children burnt. We saw that man who didn't have a back anymore, and he was clearly burnt, had no hair.
Grey Worms committing war crimes, just killing people, prisoners of war.
Yeah, I think for Dany, she really just sees those people as pawns in Cersei's larger plan, and she dehumanized herself so far to get to that point of taking down the Red Keep that I don't even think she can come back from that at this point. So she still sees them as pawns at Cersei. She's like, well, Cersei's the one, when she talks to Jon, Cersei's the one that used them against me. So who are they? I'm just using them against her in the end,
Yeah, basically she didn't want to take responsibility.
Exactly.
She was like, this is Cersei's fault. I didn't do this. I didn't put them there. This was Cersei's tactic, which it was, but when those bells rang, it was her choice
Right.
to continue to burn everything.
And we did see the bell broken. Like it looked like the Liberty Bell had a big crack in it, But it was basically the bell that used to make all these announcements and be a symbol of the joy and rapture and fear and everything that, the highest emotional states you could have in a city is just demolished. It's gone now. There really is no King's Landing. It's King's rubble.
Ruin.
It seems they got back to normalcy pretty fast. They had a nice. Well, we'll talk about this later.
Yeah, well, we had two major moments happen after Dany's declaration. We'll call it Dany's declaration of after the Mother's Day massacre. One of my friends called it the Mother's Day massacre. Her declaration of peace, declaration of war, however you decided to hear it. We had some promotions and some demotions. Well, namely, a promotion for Grey Worm. I don't know what he was before that, if he wasn't the leader of her war party.
Well, I think
Jon Snow
before.
was.
Well, yeah, before he was just the leader of the Unsullied.
And Jon Snow was
Pretty much the commander of
Dany's master of war.
Master of War. That Jon was. So pretty much.
Isn't that
Grey
kind of
Worm.
awkward to name Grey Worm the master of war when Jon Snow's standing right there?
I don't know what she
everybody.
was thinking about him. I think she just wasn't dealing with Jon, obviously. He came up there to speak to her, and he's on the side the whole time, and she's kind of just like, I'm not dealing with this right now.
She's shutting him out. She iced him.
It wasn't even about that in that moment. It's just like, I think she knew that he probably didn't agree, and she wanted to hold on to that moment. And I think even talking to anybody else would have weakened her. I mean, Tyrion walked up to her. He did that on his own.
So he walked up. We're all sitting there thinking, is
Tyrion
gonna kill her right now in front of everybody? Which honestly, like, wouldn't have been that out of the realm of possibility, because like at that point
that would have been amazing.
He did not care about his own well-being. He saw the bigger picture. He saw this mad queen with a dragon's gonna lay waste to Westeros. We all thought it for a second.
And Cersei dead. He's the last
Lannister he uncovered
living.
his brother and sister who were so. I mean, it was such a juxtaposition. How did you guys feel about that scene? Because for me, I loved it. I was like, oh, look at them. They just like came into the world. They left the world. But then on the other hand, I'm like, so there was just one brick covering his, like they were covered by one small layer of bricks. I was like, it kind of distracted me a little bit.
It served a greater purpose though, which was really to give us the sense that Tyrion has lost everything because at the hands of Dany, this queen that he really did believe in with all his heart, and now he's lost his family. He's you can see the destruction in King's Landing, and what does he have left? So that served the purpose of driving the plot forward.
But it was interesting that he sort of went down there, I think, hoping that they escaped. First, he went to see, okay, they obviously couldn't have gotten out. But he was hopeful, it seemed, that he wouldn't find them, and then he did. But I also want to bring up, how about those dragon wings behind Dany?
Oh, that was
showing that she has basically become a dragon.
Yeah, she is a dragon. That was, you see those moments in TV history. I mean, we're witnessing history. That was one of the most iconic scenes ever. It's like there's gonna be screenshot all over the internet.
Yep.
People are gonna cosplay it. I'm Dany with wings.
Yeah, that was her as the angel of death. That was what that symbolized to me in that moment. That was one of probably definitely the top 10, maybe even top 5 individual shots on the screen that I had noticed in that show. That took my breath away at that moment.
There's such beautiful cinematography. I really thought it was really well put together. I mean, obviously, this season has been catching a lot of flack from people. And it's fun to participate in some of that stuff and to pass around the memes and stuff. But tentative as our expectations were going into this episode, personally, I really liked it. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was well-rounded, and there's definitely a lot to talk about when it comes to wrapping things up for this season. Tyrion, though, did not kill Dany, but he did something that was slightly, less expected, but still kind of not surprising. He gave up his hand of the queen.
His only weapon was that very sharp pin. And he didn't use it to kill her.
His weapon was to make a statement in front of everyone who was watching.
Yes, and they stopped their spears bouncing, making that...
This is supposed to be... I thought everyone was on the same page. Obviously, they're not. The hand of the queen just quit. It's definitely a statement that could, I mean, if we had more episodes, we could say, I wonder how that's going to ripple through. But no, it all worked out.
I was shocked she even threw him in a cell, to be honest. Yeah. I thought she might kill him right there.
At that moment. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you think about the state of mind she was in, I'm surprised she didn't make a statement by just beheading him right there. Obviously, I'm glad that she didn't. But also, I never felt like Tyrion really wanted to bury Cersei, and now we see him unburying her.
It's weird. They would have Tyrion and Cersei over the course of these 8 seasons have kind of been like Tom and Jerry. Like they fight, but like they'll never actually get rid of one or the other. Because it's two. They're family. They hate each other, but they're family, and they can't be the one to do it. Yeah. So we've seen this game between the two, and I guess Tyrion won.
I guess. Wait, going back to the Tyrion and Dany scene, why do you think she spared him? When he's disobeying her in front of her army, she's coming out with these dragon wings, Grey Worm's right there. Why do you think that she took him as prisoner and didn't kill him?
Because she probably still had Jon on her team at that point, she thought. And she knew by getting rid of Tyrion, like especially in that way, in that moment, would absolutely make it worse.
I think it has to do a lot with the last thing that Ser Jorah said to her.
You want to remind us what that was?
Can you say it in the booth?
It was something like...
It's just he asked her to listen to him.
Do me a favor, he said?
Well, not even the do me a favor. It's just more like he said that he's a good man to listen to him.
Yeah, that's
the only thing that kept her on the rails was her advisors, and now she has none of them. So I think it harkened back to like she still kind of trusts some of their words that they had told her before they died.
Yeah,
very
and
interesting.
I like that. She was maybe like trying to exercise a little bit of like, and also she was on high, you know. She was having a really good day, you know. She was about to. She's like, I don't want to deal with this right now. I'm gonna go sit on the Iron Throne.
Yes.
You know,
Exactly.
I'll deal with you later. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want to put
agree.
on a show and kill her hand in front of everybody.
And there's
right?
also the Queen's Law. If you take over, you might want to at least have the show trial or something like that. I could see
Fair.
because of that. I don't think she held out any thought that he would advise her next week after maybe a little time to sleep it off. But she probably wanted it to be the first show trial of her reign.
And he kind of like laid it on really thick in such few words, as he does so well. He said, "Yeah, I freed my brother, and you slaughtered a city."
Oh, that grabbed me.
Yeah, because it's like, yeah, you know what I did.
Yeah.
But like,
It's not just tit for
do
tat.
you realize what
Yeah.
you've done?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So maybe that kind of put her, you know, took her aback a little bit, because she's either completely mad or she just gave in to a maddening moment, and now she does kind of realize, like, maybe, yeah, I did kill a lot of people, but it's for the greater good, you know?
His words out there, the symbol of it, it might have been to signal to Jon Snow. He thought, and then the visit later obviously was huge. But by doing those brave words and those powerful words you just mentioned, it might have been for an audience of one that he knew would be the only one to be able to get close enough and be able to take any action there.
Yeah.
No kidding. He did get pretty close. There was no one else around.
Yeah, it's time to appoint a Queen's Guard. You haven't done it
I
since
know,
Barristan
they-
Selmy.
Anyone can walk up to Danny.
Man,
Oh.
Unless
he cut
Drogon's
through
there.
her like carving a cake. Guys, before the episode, we all wrote down some predictions in a little game
Is
that
it
we've been
time?
playing
I'm
called
excited.
Imp Cup. Imp Cup. Imp Cup. Imp Cup. Imp Cup. Imp Cup.
Are you an Unsullied?
Yes, right. I approve. This is how I show my approval. I stamp the ground.
Oh my gosh.
So Imp Cup is a game we've been playing for the last few episodes. If you guys haven't seen our other episodes, please go check them out. And if you like, you know, the stuff that we do here, please give us a thumbs up. It really means a lot. Before the episode, we put some predictions that we had for this episode, and now we're going to read them.
I'm
AK,
really
do
worried
the
about
honors.
myself.
They're also, if you win.
I don't want to eat that. I'm not eating that, guys.
a peanut butter
No,
poof.
if you lose, you have to
If
eat
you
that.
lose, either way, you're eating one.
All right.
First
all
prediction,
right.
what do we got?
All right, we got Jon the Unburnt, who I'm guessing Kristen Elizabeth Snyder, Jeremy Dann.
Is it JD?
Twas I.
That writing's way too nice.
I think I know what you mean, but can you elaborate?
Yes, tell us more.
Jon the Unburnt. What's
So
that?
it was interesting. I thought there might be a moment when there was an order to burn someone and Jon was in the line of fire and we'd see him emerge. I thought Drogon, I thought Jon might be the end of Dany in some way, and I thought Drogon might intervene there. We didn't get that moment. We actually got Drogon showing respect when Jon was downstairs and entering the castle.
He's like, what's
And
up?
we got probably some grudging respect or at least acceptance afterwards, and Drogon knew that he would not be burning him. He probably was sad, he was angry. I mean, we saw a lot of acting from Drogon there, didn't we?
So you saying that you thought Jon was going to be swarmed in some kind of dragon fire and come out unburnt, kind of
Yes.
like Daenerys, because he's as Targaryen blood.
Yes, and also, but it was just his Targaryenness was going to cause him to be in a stronger, more powerful position vis-a-vis the dragon. So I do think it's right.
I mean, Jon left unburnt.
He left unburnt, but I think that
And
you
he could've
thought
been
he was
burnt.
going to get dragonfire on him and end up not burnt.
Well, that was
Yellows! Here's
one
the
interpretation.
You must eat the poof.
You must eat the poop.
This is Mother's Mercy, actually.
That would have been cool.
The antidote is in Mother's cup. None of us
right.
has anything to drink except for Ryan.
Yeah, what the heck, guys?
That's the antidote. Okay,
It's
next.
a nice Dawnish
Next
red.
prediction.
all right.
My other one was going to be the
Oh,
Night's
you
Watch
You
thing.
You lose. Okay, Drogon. This is Kristen. I can't read it. Drogon. It's not. It's not. It's right. Drogon say.
Yeah, give your hands. I'll take it.
Flies away into the sunset.
Yes.
Drogon flies away into the
That's
sunset.
what I wrote. I wrote Drogon flies away into the sunset. And this is why I wrote it, because I saw, all right, we only have 80 minutes left. We got to get a lot of loose ends tied up. I see Drogon being a huge threat, but I also see him not being so much a threat if he left the situation. And at first I thought it might be he left the situation because maybe Daenerys ordered him to burn Jon and he didn't want to and he pieces out. I don't know. I just thought, how are we going to deal with this dragon? Obviously, we can't have a dragon in King's Landing anymore, so he's got to go somewhere. I figured it'd be a nice thing for him to just fly away. He also was clutching his mother in his claw. That's kind of sad. I didn't predict that, but I'm gonna say I win.
I'm gonna give you a little credit.
It wasn't sunset.
It
wasn't sunset.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Who knows? It was cloudy out. No one knows.
He was flying east toward the sunrise.
That's right. He flew east. Oh man. All right.
Yeah, he did. He went to
I'm
Essos.
still eating these cheese
Spit
cubes.
it out.
Oh my god.
Next prediction.
Next. This is crazy. Look how big it is. Who needs a whole sheet of paper?
That was given to me.
I'm dead. Jon kills Dany and she put under
picture
a
of a-
little knife.
It's like a butcher knife.
Dead.
John
It's a
kills
dagger.
Danny. Congrats, Kristen. You
How
once
did- okay,
again
Kristen, how,
win a team booth.
what made you think this was going to happen tonight?
I that's the only way I was going to be satisfied with the end of this series is if Jon finally stepped up and did what he didn't want to do.
Right.
Because most of the time
I don't want to.
he doesn't want to. Most of
I
the
don't want
time.
can't.
She'll always be my queen.
Yes, and he
I
said that
shouldn't.
while he was killing her.
I won't.
So
All right, I will.
that's what I wanted to happen, and I'm satisfied. So
Yeah, a
glad
lot
he
of
did.
people speculated that Arya would kill her, or that Jaime would kill her, wearing Cersei's face or something. All kinds of different crazy stuff. It ended up being finally, yes, Jon has a reason. The Lord of Light brought him back.
Yeah.
He's been kind of bumbling around the last few episodes. And
protector of the realm.
yeah, the shield that guards the realms of men, and he guarded well.
Yeah.
You win.
Thanks.
Good job. Next up.
I can't.
Where's the throne? I'm
There's
gonna
only
sit
one
down.
left. I wonder who's
There's
that
two
could
left.
be.
There's two left.
Oh,
Yeah,
wait,
all right,
who
I'll
did a
read
double
one.
prediction?
I'll read one. Here we go.
Oh, that's not like you're so loud when you open them.
Well, I want the listeners at home to know what's going on. Here we go. Oh, it's a long one. All right. Tyrion executed for helping Jaime and Cersei escape. Bodies found later. Jon Snow betrays Dany. Arya dies attempting to kill Dany. There's a lot of predictions.
Yeah,
What's going on
Who
here?
did 5 predictions?
You're the only one
did-
left.
No, there's an. I didn't know who did a
Oh,
double
Steven!
one.
It's
Steven.
I lose.
No, well, Jon does betray Dany, so you kind of win. Come get a poof.
Stop editing the show live and come eat your poofs.
If you throw it at the wide shot, I'll get it.
Okay,
At the
here
wide.
we go.
Throw it at the wide.
Whoa!
I hope that was in 3D.
All right.
Oh man.
Yeah, so not all those, Tyrion was
Executed
kind
for
of.
helping-
She
kind
brought,
of.
she brought it up.
He did commit treason.
Bodies found later.
He found the bodies first. Arya dies attempting to kill
Jon's-
Dany. Surprisingly, Arya didn't do much.
No.
But she did just appear out of nowhere that 1 second.
Well,
And
Remember that?
encourage
She's
Jon to
learned
do
a lot.
his duty.
He's just standing there. He's he turns the. Huh! Arya.
Arya and Grey Worm have shortcuts around King's Landing.
Yeah.
Arya makes
Shows up.
sense. Arya learned that in the House of Black and White. That makes
Yeah.
sense for her. She's crafty. She's nimble. She's been doing that, sneaking through since
Yeah.
the days of King's Landing and Winterfell. So,
We'll
but Grey
allow it.
Worm, that I don't allow Grey Worm. Only
Yeah.
Arya.
We have a new character for Arya in a way because it was essentially the Sandor Clegane discussion that you would have thought she was going to play a bigger role in this final episode with some form of wrath or attempted assassination. But maybe Sandor took her off that path.
Yeah, she's gonna live
Definitely did.
her days out.
She's-
What's the
Little
last
adventure.
one? I'm excited. Isn't
Last
there one more?
There's one more. You want?
Yes.
Make sure to open it very
I'm not
loudly.
eating this.
You have to
my
eat the
God.
rest of them.
I apologize, iTunes listeners. He's so loud. Oh, no.
All right, guys, here we go. Last Imp Cup prediction. Dany will try to kill Jon, but Arya will kill Dany before she can end Jon.
You lose.
Who did that?
You lose! Although that would have been awesome to watch.
Come on. This would have made me satisfied. I would have been very excited for
Sorry.
We're
that.
gonna have to
lose.
wait until they, revamp this whole series in 10 years, and we can watch that alternate ending. I like it, but until then, you lose.
You lose.
Thank you guys so much for joining our game Imp Cup. Let us know if you had any predictions that did or did not come true in this season in the comments below. We love reading them.
Did you win?
Or did you get poofed?
Or did you lose?
Or did you lose? Thank you all guys for playing Imp Cup. Unfortunately, we can't play it anymore. It's so sad.
We can make the predictions of whether George will end things the same way in his 2 books that are left. I got kindly corrected on YouTube. Thank you. I didn't know there are 2 books left that I have to read, and they said I can't start there or I'll be lost.
No, you gotta start with
from the beginning.
Yeah. You start with Sam's new book that he's gonna be writing.
Song of Ice and Fire.
The one that includes Tyrion in it. Okay.
That was cute.
Guys, that was fun. I love playing games with you.
Cup.
But let's get back to our topics of discussion. On this next topic of discussion, we're gonna talk the Iron Puddle.
Oh wow.
Oh my gosh.
Who saw that coming?
I mean,
We kind of did say
Didn't
there wouldn't be a
someone
throne
have-
in the end.
when you and I went to Boston to do the Game of Thrones premiere, you said, I don't think there's gonna be a throne left, you guys. Not a no throne for anyone to sit on. Once again, you were right.
I win! I'm just kidding.
Before we get to
Kristen alone, it says she went.
she's alone at home, I win.
I have so much power now.
Before we get to the actual melting of the throne, let's talk about the events that lead up to Daenerys' assassination. Tyrion and Jon, and Jeremy, you mentioned it a little earlier, they had this really inspiring conversation in his holding cell. What was Jon's mentality going out, and how did it change in that conversation? Because it seemed like to me that he kind of knew all along what he had to do.
Well, I don't know about that because I was not impressed with Jon's reaction as that conversation was going on. He was loaded, full of denial and weakness.
Well, I don't know. So at the top of the scene, he's like, "Look, I can't justify what she did, so I'm not even gonna try." And then he goes on to justify, well, you know, she just saw her best friend get beheaded, and you know, her dragons died.
Like I
Come on.
just said, weak as hell, man.
Yeah.
Totally weak. And the resolve, I think, goes back to Tyrion. This is where it was a masterwork. This was really good writing, really good performance, and it was hearkening back to the Master Aemon line about love is the death of duty. And
Tyrion countered with, sometimes duty is the death of love.
So they had a lot playing off that line. They kind of reverse logicked it, and I think in the end it gave him. He probably went there still hoping he could hear things from her that would put it back on the path. We saw him asking questions he wasn't quite getting the right answer to. And in the end, it actually happened faster. I didn't think it would happen then. I thought it would happen in a later scene, but then they embraced, and we all, I think, went, now's the time.
It was nice.
Now it's happening.
It was nice momentum from the scene, the one before and then one of the leading up to her death. I mean, you could really feel the emotion in the conflict, the inner turmoil and controversy that Jon Snow was going through.
Yeah, but I mean, talking about what Tyrion was saying to him, more, he really had to repeat it and frame it for Jon.
Right.
Reframing. I think a lot of us could use this in our own life. Like, you have to reframe things. He was like, did she sound like she was done, someone who's done fighting? She wants to rule them all. And he had to reframe that and put it in a way that he could see that she's never gonna stop.
Right.
And he's like, Varys was right. And he
Fire
thought,
and blood.
Yeah, vanity. He thought that he could guide her. Tyrion thought that he could keep her under control, but he obviously couldn't. And I also like that they said love is more powerful than reason.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Tyrion's talking about that. Look at my brother. Look at what he's done to get back to Cersei. And he also talks about. Tyrion says to Jon says to Tyrion rather, it doesn't matter what I think or what I do. And Tyrion's like, it matters more than anything. If out of any of us, you're the one. You're
the guy.
You're the guy.
You're the guy. Now go kill her.
On the note of love is more powerful than reason, the last thing they say is he says, what about Sansa and what about Arya? What about your sisters?
Yeah.
We'll never
So
kneel.
his love for Dany has gone over his reason, but now his love for his sisters has gone even
Exactly.
above that.
Yeah.
They don't get to choose.
Yeah.
You lose. But you do right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's what finally got to him.
Right, and we saw a lot of. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I saw Ned Stark in this guy.
Yeah.
You know, like he
Oh,
was
yeah.
the fact that honor killed Ned Stark. It's really what it was. It was he was too honorable. You just wanted to do the honorable thing, not the thing that made the most sense, not the most reasonable thing. It was his love for his, you know, for his moral code, right, that got him killed. And Jon is like right there with him. And in that line, love is more powerful than reason. There's definitely a lot of parallels with Jaime and Cersei. I think Tyrion was also trying to take some responsibility and say like, look, I loved her too. We all did. This whole King's Landing, malarkey. That's on all of us. You know, it wasn't just Dany who did it. We all enabled her. We all believed in her, but we couldn't look past the crazy stuff that she pulled all these years, you know, with killing the masters and killing the slavers and burning the. She didn't really say it, but the Tarleys and burn. You know, she just. We watched her do it. We stood by and we encouraged her, and now it's time to do something.
And she owned that when she talked to him and talked about like, I know what is good, like her future of the world. It was so in her head. These were all actions that she did that you just referenced that she viewed as good. And then she said, I know what is good, and so do you, thinking they were simpatico. And that's when I think he realized that they had very different moral compasses.
I want to talk about why everybody really followed her, though, because at that moment, Cersei and the Lannisters were the greatest threat to the realm, and that's why everybody got behind her, because they saw that she was someone who could take Cersei out of power, and they were right about that. But when there was no more Cersei, who was the biggest threat to everyone, and then Dany surfaced as the biggest threat, but she did take out. Everyone followed her because they wanted her to take out Cersei. They wanted her to take out the big threat, but unfortunately she was the second biggest threat.
I think there's other reasons as well why they followed her. If you look at everyone who joined Dany's, campaign along the way, they were all pretty like at their rock bottom. They were all
true.
like, you look at like Jorah. Jorah was banished and exiled. You look at Sir Barristan Selmy, he was kicked out of the Kingsguard. He had nowhere else to go. Tyrion was a drunk, broke. He just killed his father. Yeah, he was close to death pretty much. He was drinking himself to death. I mean, everyone who joined Dany along the way, they had a taste of power and then they lost it, or they had a taste of like the good life,
or they had nothing else.
But they had nothing else, nowhere to go. And then they find this woman who has dragons and like she's inspiring. She has a good story, and I kind of like how and power is an intoxicating thing. I don't think for all of them it was about power, but like they were all pretty much in a bad place when they found her, right?
I was in a bad place when I found her.
Yeah.
Just kidding, but I really did.
Yeah.
I really did get behind Dany. I mean, she's a strong woman, and she was definitely somebody who I wanted to end up on the throne. But at our HBO, Game of Thrones premiere in the Boston Castle, which you can still watch on Xfinity's Twitter.
There you go.
We did say that she's been wanting this for every single season. So how could we possibly expect her to get what she wants?
Exactly. I think it's interesting too, like we always see these characters and we talk about like, okay, who is Cersei without her children? What is Jon without the Night King and that battle? And it's like, okay, what is Dany without Cersei? What is Dany with the Iron Throne? What does that actually mean? And we got to get a
and
taste
without
of it.
all her council.
Exactly, and without her council.
Right.
And we see the demise of that.
Yeah, and so let's bring it in. She finally walks into the to the Red Keep, to the throne room, and we see this image that we've seen before.
Almost this little girl walking into like all her gifts under a Christmas tree.
Yeah, she's really taking
She was
it in.
really wide-eyed.
I mean, no Kingsguard around, nobody guarding her, probably because she wanted to have this moment, right? And we had kind of that moment where in Dragonstone, she like checks it out, but she wasn't satisfied. She's like, no, this isn't the throne. The Iron Throne's the throne. She had never seen it before. It was just kind of, you don't really think about that. Like, then she explained, no, it was like a mountain of swords, I thought,
My brother told me when I was younger it was 1,000 swords made up of the fallen soldiers and Aemon's, what was it? I don't remember. The fallen enemies
20
or
swords,
something.
but it felt like thousands,
Yeah.
It felt reminiscent, I think I said it at the time, of when Littlefinger was kind of walking up and looking at the throne.
You just want to bring Littlefinger back up.
Don't bring
Oh my God,
Littlefinger.
shameless.
Not his story. Shameless.
But he's like, it's not even close to 1,000. I've counted him twice.
Jesus.
And then, of course, Varys interrupts him, just like how Jon comes in, you know, right before we were like placing bets. Like, is she gonna sit in the throne? Is she gonna
was,
sit?
like, touching it.
She touched it. That's as close as she got.
None of us thought she was gonna sit.
No.
Yeah, no.
I even offered you $1 to bet. You didn't take it.
We were live.
That's illegal, Jeremy Dan. We
Shout
don't
out-
commit treason here.
Shout out to Emilia Clarke in that scene because I think I've seen kind of a new dimension in her acting this season. I've mentioned a couple times on the show, like great facial acting. We saw it, her neediness at Winterfell. We saw her madness in the last episode, and just this satisfaction, and it was bordering on giddiness when she got the chance to
Madness.
approach the throne and have that one
This,
touch.
this like youthful appreciation,
Yes.
this like almost innocent, really appreciation.
And she is not an innocent anymore. And
Not, but
you're-
that's
you're-
what she
you're
was
so
acting
right,
like.
yeah.
She was
Like in that moment, she didn't feel threatened at all. She was in this bubble of being enthralled of where she was. It's like when you go to like Disneyland or something and you're like completely enchanted in this separate world. Like she wasn't with us in that moment.
No,
Yeah, and
she was a tyrannical, mad queen who was just having a really good day.
But I think in the bigger picture, you extrapolate, right? Like, she did have an almost innocent quality to her. And I think that the show really points to she's been fighting for something she's never even seen. She's never even touched. And it really goes to show what has this all been for. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's funny
Like,
because she
had this dream premonition about it a few seasons back.
in the House of the Undying back in
Exactly.
Karth. But yeah, she would always her like volley for reasoning as to why she wanted to rule would always bounce between because I'm the rightful heir and
exactly.
I'm entitled to it, but then it was also because I want to break the wheel and it is mine, but I want to be the good leader that the people need because it's mine and because it's my bloodline. And so she would always, I don't think she really knew, she just really thirsted for power, just like all Targaryens do. They're good conquerors and they have a few dragons to back
Except for
them
Jon.
up.
But the way
But
she
Jon.
was, the way she was acting though in that moment reminded me of like early Daenerys
Yeah.
when she was younger and she was like, you know, kind of full of joy for a moment before like her brother took over.
Sold her
But,
off
yeah,
and-
before he sold her off. to
There was
Dothraki, but-
not wrath and imperiousness in her acting in that
There
scene
wasn't.
in the throne room. That's why when Jon goes in, there's a tenderness between them again, and you didn't think you'd see it. She had just been imperious and wrathful on top of the steps, and you think you're going to see this new, haughty, ultra confident person, imperious, megalomaniacal. But she was not. She was back to being sensitive, but the words were still the same, just delivered in the sort of youthful
I loved how
manner.
Jon was just, you could just tell he was begging her to give him a reason not to. Like, please just say anything so I know that I don't have to do this. And I think the line that stood out for me where it was like, all right, bro, you got to do it. And she says, we can't hide behind small mercies. And I was like, wow, because in her mind, that's that he's like saying just let Tyrion live, just we could figure this out, we could work this out. And he knows now because she says that a human life is not a small mercy.
Exactly.
Right.
I think it's like a ping pong back to last episode, The Bells, where she's pleading with him and she's begging him and she's like, okay, like this is me. Like, don't tell people who you are and choose love. And I think she says, when she says, let it be fear rather than love, I don't think she's ever lost deep down in her that she wanted to rule with someone and that she wanted to choose love, but she felt like the world was stacked against her. She lost her advisors. She's in the north. They beat the army of the dead, but now what? She needs to fulfill her, prophesical destiny, right? And so now she's basically also begging Jon to be with her.
I mean,
So they're both begging
yeah.
each other for completely. It's
Right.
like they're
You could
not
tell
serving the right purpose.
She was like on board, but he was like, no, not that. I'm not. We're not on the same page.
She wasn't listening.
She's like, no,
gonna
yeah.
date you.
She's like, yeah, we're totally gonna we're gonna
She
burn them
didn't
all.
hear
She's like, no,
anything.
not burn them all. Not. She's like, yeah, not burn them all. I'm not gonna do it. She's like, no, please, no.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they were not on board in that conversation, and he was the only one really there. I mean, she just didn't hear him. She was just in this high,
Yeah.
just focused on like, oh, we can be together.
Yeah.
And thankfully she was,
Yeah,
because she didn't
dang.
see it coming.
Yeah, same page, different books. We're not.
different books. Oh, yes.
And the tension was so beautiful. We knew it was going to happen, but not exactly how. I mean, just a dagger through the heart. There was nothing special about that
And
dagger.
an open
There's
scene with the ash falling down. Beautiful.
When they
was so
started
sad.
making out though, and he was in it, I saw like his arm not being wrapped around her.
Really?
It
No one
wasn't-
thought
It
for
was
a
like-
moment. No one thought
What you
for a
reaching for
moment.
there, John?
He was reaching during the whole kiss. He was reaching.
She was like, yeah.
No.
Keep reaching.
Keep reaching.
No, not that. Wrong thing. Not that.
So he unsheathed his dagger. and he's stuck her.
R.I.P.
No, it was, and there was no last words.
No.
There was no. She just kind of
What
died
else was there to
almost
say?
kind of in a way that Joffrey did. Just like back kind of disbelief and like blood running out of her. I mean, it was really.
He got her right in the heart. He knew where it was.
Yeah, he's a killer. He knows what's up. And of course,
He had gotten stabbed through the heart. He definitely knows. Where
Yeah, he knows.
Knows.
He probably knows how much it sucks too, right? So it's probably that much harder for him. But then Drogon, obviously we gotta, they have some kind of, we've been teased, Drogon. Yeah.
Basically, he knew.
Sorry, reading. Sorry,
Steven's notes is
reading notes on the
Drogon
board.
knew Danny loved Jon, so wouldn't kill him. I mean, but I was hopeful that Drogon wouldn't, but he had all the reasons to.
He was. So we don't really know how smart dragons are, really, but we can certainly infer that they're intelligent enough to,
Well, they're
kind of know
emotionally
what's
intelligent.
going on. But I think in this scene, it really established like, wow, dragons really know what's going on. Because, I mean, first of all, he kind of has a little bit of a psychic connection with Daenerys. We've kind of always kind of seen that whenever she's in trouble, he'll swoop in, because he kind of gets a feeling, spidey sense.
He cried out when she died.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he knew
also
it immediately.
saved her though. Whenever
In the fighting pits.
in the fighting pits,
And
yeah.
all that. So we kind of knew that if Dany was going to die, Drogon would be an issue, right? A problem.
I thought Bran would warg into him, but we didn't need that.
No.
He might still.
Bran's warging days have been long since over.
No, he did
No,
say
at the
And at the
end.
end, he's like,
Maybe I can find
maybe
him."
I can find Drogon.
Yeah,
I think
it
he's
was-
definitely gonna.
He's going to
That
hop in
was
some
a-
ravens and
see
fly
where he
around the
is.
world and try to find. So Drogon knows what happens. Does he, though? Does he kind of know? Does he know, like, you straight up killed my mom?
I think he did know.
It seemed like
he
didn't
he let out his anger.
And he checks, her body. He pushes her.
He tries
nudges
to make
her.
sure
He's very
she's
emotive. But,
definitely dead.
So
he
why
looks
do you
directly
think?
at Jon.
Yeah, he kind of like
knows.
and he knows Jon's a Targaryen too. He's like,
Exactly.
he's kind of like an Uncle Jon. What'd you do? Is this all over this chair? Is this what this is about?
Yep.
Because obviously these dragons are intuitive. They can kind of see and sense what people's energies are about, I guess, right? So. But why do you think he melted the Iron Throne? Was it mourning? Was it rage? Was it like a specific I'm gonna take down this symbol so that you crazy humans don't freak out about this throne anymore? Or what was it? Why did he do that?
This quest for power cost me my mom.
Yeah.
And that was the symbol of the power. So in the end, the one that talked about breaking the wheel, Daenerys, from what we see from her words and the way she was analyzing her next steps of freeing everyone, we knew it was a bigger, more crushing wheel. And in the end, Drogon was the very symbol itself. Her child, by melting that throne, that was the real symbol of wheel breaking. That was if the Iron Throne is gone, at that moment, I started to believe, I'm giving you props. You did prophecy the kind of more democratic council format.
That's what I was hoping, but
And
I honestly didn't see
Yeah.
that going into this episode. I was like, how are they going to establish that?
And when I saw the melting of the throne at that point, I thought, wow, we're going to see that in a few scenes. And we did.
that was my major prediction for this series. Back when we were at the castle, was like, I think that Tyrion might introduce some kind of democratic process, because he did suggest it to Dany earlier in the series. Was it this? No, it was last season 7. He was just kind of like, hey, Daenerys, so just, I know we're trying to break the wheel and everything, but let's just say because eventually you're gonna get old and die, who's gonna take over? When she's like, don't worry about it. He's like, but we can elect some people. Don't worry about it. So he always had the idea. It was brilliantly executed. But before we leave, Dany, let's give a nice shout out to Dany. Rest in peace. She, I think, was our only major death right? This
Yeah.
episode. Last episode we lost a lot. Normally at this point in the show we play a game called Death Pool, where we try to predict who's going to die the next episode. Since we don't have that, was anyone playing a Death Pool?
I got second place out of I think 51 or 61
Wow,
people.
that's
Yeah.
still pretty damn good.
I only lost because Dany was like a +3, and at the beginning of season 8.
Yeah.
Didn't look like she was gonna die, so I did not put her to die. But everybody I did select did die. The only problem was like Jon was +2, Dany was +3, so somebody selected her to die. I don't know how they thought she would die because I didn't
I know, right?
until this
She
episode.
she was the hero.
Oh,
kinda.
and you know, if you guys are out there watching, it's so easy if you could just hit that subscribe or thumbs up to like our show. We've been doing it for you for years, and it's been so much fun, but it's so easy to do, and it's easy for you, but it means so much to us. So just push the little thumbs up
Guys,
button.
this is our last one. It'd be a huge
Yeah.
gesture just to see those thumbs up. It really does help. And throw us a comment, see what you thought. Did you guys like that scene where Drogon burned the throne? I think it was awesome. What'd you think? Did you think Bran should be sitting on the Iron Throne, or I guess the wooden wheelchair? What do you think? Tell us. Was that an inappropriate thing I just said?
Dragon breath can't melt steel beams.
Hashtag inside job. Hashtag.
Well, we do read all your comments. I love talking about the show with you guys. I always interact, so definitely please leave us a comment. Also on iTunes, if you can give us 4 or 5 stars, that's awesome.
No, 4.
I forget. Is it 4 or 5? I don't know. But give us all the stars, like we're driving you, like we're an Uber driver or something. I always give all the stars.
Yeah, throw some stars, throw some thumbs up. We really appreciate it. We love
Thanks,
doing this show for you
guys.
guys. We're so sad that this is our last one. We're not done talking yet.
No,
but
we have more.
We have more. So let's keep it going. Right after you, we'll give you a sec to click the
Thumbs up.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we know you didn't have to. But we really you win. That was the smashing of the button.
It was.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it, but that's what that was. Sure.
Awesome.
All right, guys.
Our next topic.
But real quick, Death Pool.
Yeah.
I was in first place last episode, and I don't know if I won or not. I think I had like 15 friends join one, and I led the group because it's like, you know, like I should, right? Certainly, but. I'm really hoping I'm going to add up the points and let you guys know on Twitter if I won my Death Pool.
You
or not.
lose!
Dang it, I knew it!
Oh, spoiler alert.
Well, I tell you what, we can move into our final topic of discussion, which is a big one, and I think the most important one. We're calling it Bran the Broken. That's going to encompass kind of everything, all the election that happened, our new small council, and then finally the new Stark legacy that we leave our heroes with at the very end of the show. So to start off, Jon killed Dany, and he's being held captive by the Unsullied, which brings all these people down. At first, we were like, "Oh my God, how'd they get there? They just all teleported." But it had been quite a bit of time. You know, everyone has like grown out beards and stuff. We can tell. You know, Podrick's got long hair. Everyone's so time has passed, and now we're in the wake of a new beginning for Westeros. Right, we have all these lords. From what I saw, we had Sansa, Grey Worm, Tyrion, this new Prince of Dorne who finally decided to make an appearance.
So handsome.
Yeah, Yara, Arya, Davos, Brienne, Gendry, Podrick, Bran, Edmure, Robin Arryn, Sam, and Lord Royce. There was a couple others who I didn't.
Yeah, but
I
hit us
wasn't
up
sure
in the
who they
comments,
were.
guys, because we only saw the show once live on our live stream. So if you guys watched and were able to go back, let us know in the comments. So
There was someone sitting next to Lord Royce, and Robin Arryn, by the way, looks so big.
He was
grew
so
up.
up.
And I love his demeanor. He just didn't care.
All that
He's like a
breast milk.
teenager who's just like,
Yeah.
I don't care about any of this.
That you pretty much just acted it when they went around. He goes, whatever.
I don't care. But we had him, Lord Royce, and then a third person. I didn't know who he was. And then you had Edmure, and
Edmure.
who was next to him is also a mystery. So yeah, if you guys know who they were, please leave a list of who attended Election Day in the comments.
Other than the main players, because we know who all they were.
Yeah, but the main players are there. They're negotiating, and Tyrion, they're like trying to say some stuff, and he's like, "Shut up, Tyrion, you're not supposed to be talking. He's like, let's have an election. and then for some reason, Grey Worm's like, I think he realizes that he's not really the only leverage that he has is Jon Snow's life. Mm-hmm. Because it's true, the Unsullied have kind of been dwindled in numbers. The Dothraki, they can't stand up to the armies of all 6 kingdoms that are left. 6 or 7, right? Including the north. So his only leverage is Jon Snow, and so he immediately says, all right, fine, go ahead and make your choice then. Because what else can he really do?
Yeah.
What else can he really say?
Nothing.
All these people are the most powerful people in the country, right? So then the election begins.
Well, I
Tell
also
me-
liked
tell
how
me-
Samwell was like, why don't we give everyone a vote?
Democracy.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. And everyone's like, oh, I'll have my dog and my horse vote.
Yeah, it was funny.
So is that like a crack at our system that maybe it's not the best system?
Well, I saw it as like an opportunity for the writers to say like, hey, at least someone float the idea so that we can't get away with like completely ignoring the fact that democracy is a reality for our world, so why couldn't it be for theirs? I think the culture is so different that the one that they live in versus the one we live in, though it's like, these people don't know what's best for them.
Do we?
Do we? I don't know. Leave a comment. Does democracy work? Next time on Game of Thrones.
Not this past few years, it hasn't worked.
But it's kind of like a hybrid. What would you call it? An oligarchy? Is that what you'd say? The most powerful, richest families all elect their own leader to rule them all.
Yeah,
Right.
it looked like it was almost a smaller House of Lords kind of thing. Because there were what were there, 12 people at that? It was beyond just the 7 kingdoms, and they were the ones that were asked to do it. So it looked like they'd kind of settled on that system. But it still will almost certainly come from that group of houses and still be highborn people. It wasn't a democracy. Definitely that oligarchy.
They reinvented the wheel, so to speak. I mean, now
That's a good phrase.
We finally know who the lords are of all the other kingdoms, because at first we're like, wait, is Robin Aaron still the only one who's like alive or like still?
Robin Aaron is the longest tenured lord of one of the lands.
And Tyrion is the tallest Lannister.
Yeah.
And here we are.
But
So-
Edmure has a speech, so he's the most viable.
My
Edmure.
God.
It was so
What
brilliant.
is wrong with him?
It's so brilliant. And
love
the fact that
Sansa.
he hits his sword, it's so perfect. It's like his awkward, like bumbling actions, But
How he is still alive, I'll never know.
No.
yeah, wasn't he like being held captive by the Freys?
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna have to,
Yes.
we're gonna have to
For so
rewatch
long.
to see. He got
He
released
should not
though, right?
still be alive. Yeah, apparently.
Apparently,
He
when
should-
Arya came, she's like, "Oh, by the way, Emmy, I killed them all. You can leave.
Yeah, I
They're all,
guess so.
they're all dead."
But I do like that they won't be born into ruling anymore. I mean, that's not really fair that you're just born into riches. I never liked that idea, and born into ruling. I mean,
Right. Well, what do you think?
qualifications being born like so your dad was a king, that doesn't mean that you're going to make a great king.
Right. So it's more based on merit,
Mm-hmm.
but also I feel like it makes a more tantalizing Game of Thrones because if you got to please the right people to be elected, there might be more.
Little fingering.
Diabolical, working like, oh, did Bran the Builder die?
Right,
did he
right.
fall out of a building again? Uh-oh. Looks like we gotta elect another one. By the way, I promised all the gold and stuff in the world, just elect me,
Right, right.
Believe me,
it could happen.
That's the way it happens. And
Yeah.
you're going to have the same kind of horse trading and marriages and things like that. It will just not be as permanent. Yeah, it'll probably be even, they talked in our country about Thomas Jefferson, Tyrion is the Thomas Jefferson of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas Jefferson talked about having a constitutional convention, I believe, every 20 years. And things would have been nuts. Can you imagine how
Yeah.
nutty this conference is going to get when these guys have to get together?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, would the North wouldn't show up for that stuff, right? By the way,
They're gone.
Well, Sansa.
Sansa
yeah.
basically said, "Look, I
Peace out.
abstained because."
She's like, I need to be queen somewhere, so like this is not happening.
yeah.
It's not happening.
No, yeah. So the North probably won't come down for that. So it'd be the Six Kingdoms. This title has changed. The leader of the Six Kingdoms and protector of the realm.
I really like Tyrion's speech though, where he's like,
Yeah.
"It's not the flags, it's not the gold that people remember that they follow." I'm not sure exactly what he said,
said
but it's the
the
stories. Do you
stories.
have the line?
Well, he said, "There's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story."
What unites people, and who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
Right.
By the way, When you want a better nickname than
I
that?
don't like it. I'm not
Should have been
behind
Bran the
that.
Badass
Yeah,
or something. I mean,
But it's
Bran the
yeah. If
Baller?
you look at his broken, I mean, he's come from this place that's respectable. I guess the fact that he fell out of a tower and that didn't stop him, and he still became. I mean, he had to go past the wall into the north on a sled, be carried. He got there somehow. Most people don't even go north of the wall that could walk and defend themselves. He was totally defenseless and went out there to become the Three-Eyed Raven.
Right.
So, and the fact that he's got all this wisdom of the past and the present, and he can see the future. I mean, it makes sense. I just wish that we got a few more likable scenes from Bran
Right.
before it came to this. Because I don't mind him ruling. I think it makes sense, the fact that he's the Three-Eyed Raven. But I'm just bothered by the fact that I don't think most people out there, I forget what number he was on the Vegas of people betting. Maybe you can look it up, Steven. But
by far
he
number
was.
one. By far number
No,
one.
there's
Yeah, 'cause
no
there
way.
were leaks. There were
Yes.
leaks.
we
Oh,
talked about
really?
that, yeah.
There were leaks that people.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were leaks.
Way.
But
I didn't know about this.
Can we all just imagine that kingdom though? It's like we're running out of food. Everyone's starving.
I know.
They have exactly as much food as they need.
everything's
So true.
everything's as it should be.
they're storming the gates. They're storming exactly what they should be storming.
It's so true. And I'm with you, Kristen. I said this in the last few episodes. I really miss some of the backstory of people the characters that we've grown to know and love, learning about Bran. And I wish we got to see more first person reactions to Bran being the Three-Eyed Raven and what that really means. Because that was like folklore, the same
Right.
way that the Army of the Dead was.
Yeah,
and
what does it mean?
And I get it. There wasn't time. There were time constraints on how much story could be told. But I did miss that. And I think that would have helped us sort of absorb Bran being on the throne or not there, being
I mean, there's
ruler.
plenty of reasons why we like Arya, which I obviously wouldn't want her on there. And there's plenty of reasons why people didn't like Sansa for the majority of the show. So that wouldn't have pleased anyone. And Jon never wanted it. Tyrion, he's kind of been there all along, so it wouldn't make sense for him. But like for Bran, like I can't recall. There's so many likable moments for Jon, like being, everything he's done over the course of these 8 seasons. But like, what are the likable moments for Bran other than he's the Three-Eyed Raven, and it makes sense because he can see everything. But it's like I just needed more likable moments.
He didn't have any interactions with characters at that council. He was not a diplomat. He was not a warrior. I think it goes back to the old politics. He was the senior male heir and probably official lord of Winterfell of a house that
Was
respected and that maybe it was a big part of holding off the battle at the invading dead armies.
Why do you think he
I think
came
none
all
of those
that
people
way?
knew he was the Three-Eyed Raven. It wasn't because of those powers that he was elected.
No, we're
Selected.
we're diagnosing this in kind of a couple different ways. First, it's like when we talk about we're talking about we as the viewers, we as the people who are fans of this show, who know information that a lot of people don't, and who kind of deserve to be satiated in a way, right? But we also, I think a lot of times when people discuss the Game of Thrones, we don't often take into consideration the people of Westeros, the peasants, the farmers, the foot soldiers, the people who are actually the realm, right? So we're talking about the realm, and you're right. Bran he has a house name. He's Bran Stark. One of the ancestors of the very first men. I mean, Bran the Builder was the first king of the North. Well, first king in Westeros, I believe. And so to have, and what Tyrion's saying, first of all, it's kind of like a parallel. I mean, this whole Game of Thrones series has been a good story. There's nothing more powerful than that. But the story is for the people. The story is not for Bran. It's not to like legitimize him in any way. It's so that the people will allow themselves to be ruled by someone, because like they got to be ruled by somebody, right? And it was like Tyrion had figured it out. This makes for a good story. This is something people can rally behind. They can't rally behind Jon
Anymore, they probably could have.
Well,
Yeah.
he just not anymore. Yeah, but he just killed a queen. Yeah, she invaded and stuff, but wasn't he like on her side a minute ago? Like they couldn't trust Jon. There were no other clear choices. It seemed that the quietest guy in the room kind of won because it made the most sense. It
He
really
didn't
did.
have anything against him. He hadn't tarnished his reputation in the past 8 seasons.
That's why he's always been keeping his mouth shut. It's just like, I just got to
Definitely
sit
made
here and wait for election day, okay?
That was always where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
To
There-
argue
made
though,
sense.
if the metaphor is to create a book that's basically the series to show that everyone can get together over a story, just like everyone's gotten together over Game of Thrones, wouldn't it make sense that that story be geared towards the person that everyone's behind at the end of it? And this show did not really do that.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
I would say that we were behind a few different characters. You know, like everyone was kind of behind Arya in a way. Everyone was a fan of Sansa, and everyone was a fan of Jon. And you know what? At the same time, you know, people were still fans of Tyrion. People were still fans of Brienne and Davos. And you know what? We got them all.
Are we talking about us being behind them, or who
Yeah,
would
who are
be
we talking
viewed at the time by the citizenry or even the noblemen?
Well, I feel like the play is on the fact that what we just watched is the book they're giving to the people to kind of sway them towards one way or the other. And I feel like if that's the metaphor they're going to, which it might not be, I might be drawing at straws. It just felt like there wasn't a clear, concise thing of like, this is what everyone who's reading this or watching this will get out of it.
Right. I think that because everybody's behind the Starks and everybody liked a Stark, that it's easy to accept Bran because he is a Stark and he symbolizes all of their wants. But yeah, I would have liked more. And I also like how he's making Tyrion the hand of the king to fix all of his terrible mistakes and how Grey Worm accepts that.
And Tyrion, he knows he has to be, you can tell he's like, his gears are turning. He's going to be really careful with his words because, like, of course he would rather be hand of the king than, like, shackled right now.
Right.
He's like shackled, dirty and stuff. He's like, yeah, you want to have the most important job in the world? Tyrion's like, yeah. I mean, no. Not me. I don't deserve it.
The book should be called Raising Bran.
Raisin Bran.
Raisin Bran. Oh, that's funny.
Raisin Bran. Coming to a shelf near you. That's pretty good.
Raisin.
Yeah, raising. Like
It's
raisin.
a 5-time King's Landing bestseller.
They're going to call it
Kingdoms.
But it's like,
New King's Landing, I think, eventually,
can
once
you
they
guys
rebuild
please
it.
tell me like the leak story with the Vegas bets? Like, how did that get out? People told me this episode was leaked, but what happened?
Yeah, someone who had
Let's save it for
seen
news and gossip.
Yeah, news and gossip, sure.
We'll save it for news and gossip.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of hard to avoid entirely, and leaks are...
Talking about Bran, though.
Yeah, someone spelled it out in text form, in long form text.
Interesting. I guess I'll get more news and gossip, so stay tuned. See you too.
Stay tuned.
That was just a hint.
Let's talk about this new small council that Tyrion puts together for Bran. I think it's really cool. It's almost
Love it.
it's very appropriate, right? Who do we have on there? We have
Samuel Tarly as the Grand Maester.
He's the Grand Maester. It all worked out. And he came up with a new title for the book, A Song of Ice and Fire, written by another Maester in the Citadel. And Tyrion wasn't mentioned at all.
Yeah, I don't know how they
I don't know why that had to be
Probably
part of it.
because the Maester was from Lannisters and everybody like pretty much hated Tyrion the whole time.
It was one of the Lannisters was a Maester.
It was probably a Maester written by a Maester that was like at King's Landing and everyone hated Tyrion, especially after he killed
Such
Tywin.
a because silence is violence, and once you erase someone's name from history, they die their second death, right? So it's like almost like the biggest. It's like the biggest slap in the face ever to
That was
be
so
left out.
profound, Ryan.
Well, thank you.
Well, maybe everything that Tyrion had done thus far, he wouldn't want written. And maybe what he's going to do in 10 years, when he tells Jon whether or not Jon made the right decision,
Yeah.
maybe in those 10 years, everything
do
that
something
Tyrion,
great.
he can do something
Exactly.
great, and that's what will be written
More
about.
books will be written. I think he's got a second
Yeah.
coming.
Well, speaking of people being written about in books, we have Sir Brienne of Tarth, Knight of the Six Kingdoms.
Yeah.
She's on.
No, Lord Commander of the King's Guard or whatever they're
Now she's Lord Commander of the King's Guard, who has a seat at the Small Council, right? And so she's on the Small Council, and she goes and fills in the rest of Jaime Lannister's story, which is so nice. It was a service to us, and it was closure, and it seemed so appropriate. They didn't have to give it to us, but they did.
Well, it parallels the whole, dropping the big book on the table, the Song of Ice and Fire, and she tells her story, or the story of Jaime, over those just couple of pages. And they took their time, and we were able to read a good chunk of it. And it told the aspects, it is all told from the point of view of the winner. And so a lot of people might have viewed that story as being told of betrayal and all of that, but she found the positive elements. And it kind of parallels the experience of us as viewers with Jaime over the years, that he had, I call it not a character arc, but the character roller coaster, and even played out with some ups and downs in that final season. And I think I want to see it again and freeze frame it, but I think she emphasized those positive elements because he will hold that positive role in her heart.
Yeah, I would love to. I can't wait to go back home, and because you got to know that people took screenshots, and I want to read what she actually wrote, because I'm sure it's all significant. But the most significant part that they actually gave us a chance to read, the last thing she wrote was, he died protecting his queen.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to know that he's being remembered in a way that is not bitter of the fact that he did go through a kind of a moral roller coaster, and he did make regrettable decisions, but that he died protected, which no matter which side you're on, that's an admirable thing to say about somebody. He dying to protect someone else is what knights do, and it's what true heroes do. And whether that someone else was a hero or a villain, that's up for debate. But when someone dies protecting another life, that's objectively heroic, and it's a nice thing that she ended on. Yeah. So, she's on the council. Who else we got on there? We got Sir Davos, who's not really a lord, all right? The Onion Knight. Does he have his own house? I don't know.
Master of ships.
But he has his own. Remember,
it's a rather new house.
It's yeah. Well,
as I said to Liana Mormont.
He sat there and kind of solidified his role as a lord by saying, "I don't really know if I get a vote, but I say aye." So now he's master of ships, which is more appropriate for someone who is a skilled sailor, knows all the the ins and outs of every port, and knows how to run a ship, a tight ship, and a fleet. He did so for Stannis Baratheon, and he did so for Jon Snow. This is Jon Snow. He's king of the North. And so Sir Davos finds his seat on the small council, master of ships.
Okay.
What about Davos?
No, I was going to say, when you think of Davos, I think it's interesting because he really represents someone who, from the very beginning, had such a lowly position and really has been through some stuff with Stannis and everything. And the entire small council really represents people that came from nothing and worked their way up in the series and worked their way up to lordships and ownership. And I think that that's a bigger take on this new breaking the wheel and this new reign of Bran the Broken. And even the small council represents people who are really entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah, self-made.
Self-made.
And
this
Davos,
entire small council.
Who's a better representation of that than Davos?
I might be forgetting
Bronn.
some, but most of the show, the characters were highborn, even if they were from minor houses. Our biggest characters that were not highborn were Bronn, now Lord of the
Master
Reach.
of Corn.
We have
Master of
Davos, who was a smuggler. We have Gendry, who's now a lord,
Who is a bastard?
and Hot Pie. I mean, that's essentially our four main
Exactly.
characters.
And even Samuel Tarly. I mean, yes, he was born into a house, but he was sort of the outcast, banished to the wall. Look at his rise in the series. So I really love that the small council has been made up of these people, and I think Davos is a great representation of that.
Yeah, I agree with that appointment. The one that I'm not so sure I agree with is Bronn.
Master of Coin.
I mean, look, it's great that they brought him in there. It's great that they brought him in there, and I love how they leave it kind of on a comedic note of like, okay, now here's how they're gonna run their council meetings. It's gonna be like, a nice little band of misfits and whatnot. But Bronn, master of
He's a
coin.
swordsman. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Everything he's ever done in life, he did for money.
He knows how to spend money. I don't know if he knows how to,
No, he knows how to get money.
He does.
He always knows what he had to do to get the money, and he's done it.
And the ladies.
No brothels. No brothels.
Have consensual sex with ladies.
Oh my
get
gosh,
money.
I can't.
Have consensual sex with ladies.
What?
Get money.
Roll Ryan off.
No comment.
Can I ask a potentially ignorant question?
Yeah.
Please.
The Golden Company, how was that paid for?
I think it was paid for in full by Cersei when she got the. Ooh, good point. Because
It might have still been the
The
crown.
Tyrells, though.
Well, the Tyrells
Tyrells.
helped pay off the crown's debt to the
Iron Bank.
Iron
The
Bank.
bank.
You
And
mean the
Iron-
Tyrell stolen money
Right.
and gold? Yeah.
Yeah. as Bran used to say, you can kill enough people, they make you a king. So
Wouldn't they be like a broke kingdom at this point?
that's a very good point, because she did take out. It sounded like she made another deal with the Iron Bank.
Yeah.
She did. Got more money to hire the Golden Company to begin with. So how is that debt repaid? Well, it's whoever sits on the bank, I guess.
This is Bran.
But
He's figuring it out with the bank.
Tyrion did go ahead and say, "Look, Bran, what is he now? He's also Lord of Highgarden, right? Which is like one of the richest kingdoms.
It is.
Right.
Because
Very plentiful with crops and
bountiful
land.
food
Yeah.
and stuff. So somehow he's running that successfully and is able to bring in enough money to basically Master of Coin has always kind of been a kind of a charade piece, because Peter Baelish would supply a lot of his personal finances to help supply the crown.
I think Master of Coin needs to be a little like, it's sort of like your shady tax accountant. Like, you need someone who's like not going to tell you everything that's happening, but just do the things you need him to do to like get the outcome.
Sure. No, we
And
can-
I think
about
Bran,
my tax
I
accountant
think
like
Bran
that.
is up for a challenge, you know?
Get
I
it.
think Bran is I think you need someone in that position who's a little crafty and kind of
Yeah,
knows what's
I
at
agree.
stake and what they need to do.
Do you think the representative of the Iron Bank's getting fired? I mean, first he financed Stannis,
Yeah.
then he gave a huge loan for the
Stan.
Golden Company. He's bet on two losers in Westeros in a
Yep.
period of a couple of years.
As long as the balance gets paid with their interest, then I don't think it matters, So
Under new management.
Also, they have to rebuild King's Landing. Like, how is that going to happen?
over a long period of time, in 10 years, hopefully.
Brown
That's
would
Tyrion's,
say,
that's
it
Tyrion's
takes
goal.
as long as it's supposed to take.
They'll make the liberated people build.
Exactly.
I want to ask you guys a quick question about the remaining seats. We need a Master of War, right? And a Master. What were the other?
Master of Whispers.
Master of Whispers
Master of Law.
and a Master of Law. Who do you think? Just think about it now, while I. Stall for time for you to think about it. And while I'm stalling, you guys think who would be the who would fill the small council? Master of War, Master of Whispers, and Master of Law. For those listening at home, please shoot us a comment. Tell us who you think should be the new Master of Law, Master of Whispers, and Master of War on the new small council under Bran the Broken. Do you guys have any guesses?
I'm going with people who can't because they're leaving and going elsewhere. But if they were staying in King's Landing, 'cause we don't know a lot of the people that are left pretty
Yeah.
much. So if they were staying in King's Landing, I would make Jon of War, Sansa of Whispers, since she was under Peter Baelish,
yeah.
and I'd make Arya of War, 'cause she knows what's right and wrong.
Well, you said
Of Law.
Wait,
Of Law.
Oh, Arya, Master of Law? Yikes.
Yeah, Grey Worm's gone. Bring Jon back.
Guys, what if that was what that was alluding to? 3 empty seats, 3 Stark siblings left, Jon, honorary Stark, and each of them having like that kind of ownership over that position.
They're
Queen in
like
the
going
Knoll.
other
Yeah.
places.
Kristen just win again.
Well,
I win. Just kidding.
sequel. Call it Starkland.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously not staying there. And it's like, do we know anybody? Do we know anybody else who's staying in King's Landing?
Like,
I feel
who's
like
left? I'm racking my brain. Like,
Whispers should be Martha.
There you go. Master of Whispers.
it's funny.
I think Tila, the mini Shireen Baratheon.
Have Law.
Me brothers were soldiers. I want to fight too. No, she's the war.
Okay.
Master-
Tila.
okay. I dig it. You're right. There's not
And
a lot
Drogon for war.
of Drogon.
or law. Drogon makes the law.
he makes the law.
He works remotely.
Okay.
What's he doing? He's dealing with some hot topics right now. You're good. Sorry, boo. Somebody click the boo button on that. Thank you.
Stark Legacy.
Yeah, I'm not sure about who's gonna fill the small council. I guarantee though that it will be filled like politically. They'll bring in like maybe the Prince of Dorne gets a seat or like something like that. Because that's Dorne's one of the kingdoms, isn't it? And then Yara. Yara's running the.
Oh, I don't like her.
Yeah.
I didn't like her
Yeah,
last
oh my
remark.
God.
What a
so-
random remark.
I know, right? But most of our characters ended up having somewhat of a nice, well-rounded story. So we got a closure on a lot of them. Let's bring it home with our last main characters, the Stark siblings, and we see them going off to do their respective journeys and destinies. Let's start with Jon. He's going up. I really loved the ending for him because if you guys remember in the very first season, all he ever wanted was to be a ranger.
Yeah.
Be a ranger like Uncle
They wouldn't
Benjen.
let him.
They wouldn't let him. that was all he ever wanted. Mom rejected him. He's just like, this is the only thing I want, to be a ranger. It didn't work out that way. He ended up being a steward because he's a natural born leader. But I think it's safe to say he is a ranger because he's going north of the wall with Ghost. What a great, reunion.
Yeah. So nice that he got to pet Ghost.
Yes. It looks like what's happening is he's leading kind of a company, a settlement company north of the wall as a ranger. Right? He would be a ranger because a steward wouldn't do that. Lord Commander wouldn't do that. Right. He seems to be a natural leader and everyone respects him because they were giving him respect.
When Tormund, he gets to go off with Tormund. Yeah. They're like besties now.
I know, I do love that.
But Jon gets what he wants. He gets to be a ranger. It kind of, I thought that was nice closure for that character. What do you guys think?
I think he's seen more of the world, and the world hurt him. I mean, the world hurts when you get out there. He has been stabbed. He has fought everyone there was.
Been killed by his friends.
I still viewed it myself as
killed his love,
bittersweet, more on the bitter side. And it was a loss for the kingdom, and it was a loss for him. He's lived this adventurous life, and now he's back into this small world. And once you've seen, how can you keep him down on the farm once that they've seen Perry, which is about soldiers going off to war and seeing
Lord
a bigger
of the
world.
Rings, basically.
He has seen a bigger world, and I don't think he yearns for the simple side again. I mean, I'm sure it's a little bit of relief right now, but he has so much potential. He's a true leader. He got people. He was viewed as semi-lowborn, being a bastard, and he still had people rally to his side and eventually declare him king in the north. It's a loss that his leadership's not being. I think
for him it's like a load of pressure off of his mind. Now he can live with true purpose the way he wants. Look, there's no Night King threat anymore. There's no tension as to his true the nature of his true heritage, because ultimately, even if everyone ends up finding out, it doesn't matter. He's in the Night's Watch. He gave up all rights to lands and titles. So it's you're Aegon Targaryen, but you're in the Night's Watch. Which, by the way, matter.
We're not sure about that. We're not sure the state of play of that. It doesn't seem like Varys' notes went out. At least we saw no evidence and lines of that. In those final discussions at that Council of the Lords, we don't know. Bran having the special powers of Greensight and warring and everything else, and we don't know about Jon's heritage from that meeting. So we got to assume a lot of that's held back.
It doesn't really matter, though. It's off the table,
and
exactly.
After seeing what Dany did, I don't think anyone wants a Targaryen to rule ever again anyway.
Right.
So I think that whole plot line of the lineage, it's so much more than that now. It's about moving on.
Right, and if he wasn't banished, quote unquote, to the Night's Watch, I mean, what would be his place in this world anyway? Right? So it would always be a threat to the crown. There would always be people talking about it. But I think it was the perfect way to wrap up his character was to throw him up there and just let him live.
It's a compromise. No one's really that happy in the end.
Which means it's a pretty good compromise.
According to Tyrion, it's a good deal.
Yeah. So next Stark sibling, I guess we'll go to the next oldest. We'll go Sansa.
I think she got what she wanted as well.
Exactly what she wanted.
Yeah, she did.
Queen of the North, baby.
She wanted the throne, but second best.
Yeah, she's queen in the North. Right?
Her sour face when they were all voting for him.
God, I kept looking at it.
Yeah, she's like, oh, shit.
But I respect her craftiness, even with Bran. And somehow I guess Bran sees it as a good thing because, he can foresee what's best for the realm. And so I like her craftiness down to the bitter end. She was like, I'm not going out like this. I didn't go through all this, crap to get nothing. And I like that she sort of did this little negotiation with Bran, talking about how we're going to stay, the North will stay independent.
What do you guys think would have happened if they were like, you know what, Sansa, why don't you take the Iron Throne? Or
boom.
You think she would have done it?
So.
Yes.
No,
yes.
I don't.
Yes. Are you really?
No.
Yes.
She's always wanted to be in the North the entire.
No.
Yes, she does.
She wants to be in her home. She wanted to be a princess. That's why she went to King's Landing.
From the first
In the
episode.
North, she never talked about ruling the kingdoms. Even when Daenerys was up there, she's like, "What happens to the North? What happens to the North?" She didn't ever ask about the throne.
Kristen,
Tell me.
Season 1, going back to the "we'll join our houses" conversation with Robert Baratheon. She was so thrilled about that and marrying Joffrey and being
She just
the
liked
queen.
Joffrey
It's her
at the moment.
It's her childhood goal. Eventually, when she realized she wasn't going to get that, she focused more on the North. But I think it would have tied it up perfectly.
She was a stupid girl when she had that dream.
Stupid.
Right, but
No,
she's
I
not
think you're wrong. wrong. Yellows.
Interesting.
She regained her love for the North, but she thought the North was a small place. She loved the styles of the South and the hairstyles and the lemon cakes. She had changed, and you could say she changed back, but that's a character arc, not a never.
I think she settled for what she
that.
could get, and she realized that was her true power. And I think she was, paying homage to her father and wanting to have a Stark control the North, and the Stark was going to be her.
She never wore those light summer dresses of King's Landing
Yes,
ever
she
again.
did. Oh
Even
my
in
gosh.
this episode, she was in all black.
Because she's embraced the North, because she's had that's what she's going
I
to get
love
in life.
it. I love this question. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be this heated. I figured everyone would be like, yeah, totally, or no, I don't think so. But I love the debate, guys. Do you think Sansa would have sat and been the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, or do you think that she was always going to want to strive for Northern independence? Let us know what you think.
Wait, what do you think?
I think that she would have accepted, but she would have said that I will rule from the North. She would have accepted.
She wants to be in the
She
North.
would have been ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, but only if the North was the capital.
Yeah.
Didn't you notice in
wanted
her
that throne.
coronation as Queen of the North there were lemon cakes being served? I think it's still symbolized. She would have taken it.
It's very, very
Oh, you
cool.
can't like lemon cakes if you live in the North? What is this?
So Sansa's going to rule the North, probably marry another highborn lad and have some babies, and the North will be independent, kind of like how in the United Kingdom, North Ireland is like independent of it. I think that's how it works. I don't know. I forgot. But it's kind of interesting how there's only 6 kingdoms now, and a Stark rules
Separately.
a king or true king. I don't know what you call it, because if those are kingdoms but there's no kings, then what's the North?
The North is its
just
own
independent
land.
North.
It's the Sixth
Territory.
Kingdom.
Thing.
It's just the North.
Switzerland.
So it was really cool. We got this new, and I wonder if there's actual lines drawn on a map, like
Sure.
actual, this is where it ends.
And
or
then the
this-
first ruler's going to come back and demand the North back. The North has 1 million people to the rest of the realms, probably 30 million, let's say.
Okay, well, think about
One
it.
generation.
Think about it.
No, they've said a million times the North is bigger than a lot of the other
Yeah.
The
lands.
size of the rest, yes.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
size of the rest.
Well,
so.
I think it's interesting. You have Sansa ruling the North, this like independent territory. Jon being a ranger, north of the Wall,
Even-
sort of
even more north.
more of an independent territory.
Yeah.
Then you got little Arya going off in her boat to rule
West
maybe
of West.
west of West and independent territory.
Very
so you
good,
kind of
yes.
have these Stark siblings going off and doing. Even Bran, he's starting something new in this sort of independent. He's ruling, but he's going to be a fair ruler. So they all went off to do these very different. Fulfill these different legacies.
It was really cool the way they cut in between, they cut back and forth to kind of give us a notion of like, okay, we're wrapping this up. This is how it is. This is where they're going. This is what they're doing. You have Arya going to explore. There's 2 more continents on the planet. Earth, on the land.
Planetos.
The planet.
I've heard it called.
Planetos of.
Yeah.
Yeah, really?
really.
Planetos.
world,
Okay,
yeah.
Planetos.
This is why he's
I've heard
Professor
some
Jeremy
people
Dann,
refer to it
guys.
that way.
She's gone where the map ends.
Yeah, so she's going off to be an explorer, to be a pirate, to be an adventurer, something that she's, That's exactly go. I'm Arya Stark, who used to be nobody. Now I'm gonna be somebody, and tell me that I'm not.
I want to see
am
that
a pirate,
story.
and I am very
Yes.
hot.
Yes.
That should be one of the 3 series they create, or some movie.
Yeah.
Arya the
Oh,
new
spin-off
Sinbad.
movie?
Yeah,
Yeah, Arya-
That's the adventure.
Arya
It's not done, guys.
does Bessos.
No, I think one begins with like a U and one begins with a Y. The other 2 consonants.
It's so cool. I mean, you got to wonder, like, it's great that the show leaves you with enough of a universe left to imagine and to predict. Even though we're not going to be going further with more episodes, you can at least imagine, wow, Arya going off and being a pirate and exploring new lands. It'd be really cool, We have Bran the king, Jon the ranger, Sansa the queen, and Arya the pirate. All 4 of the Stark siblings have officially had their destinies turn into a reality.
I think everybody got what they wanted.
Did everybody get
Danny.
what they want except for
Well,
Danny.
we're talking about the stars.
She got what she wanted.
What do you
She
think's
got
gonna-
there.
She got the throne for a hot second.
For a hot second, she had it. Everybody got what they wanted.
Do you think from the previous 5 seasons she at least deserved to sit on it for a second?
I know.
No.
Nope. She touched it. That's all she got. That's all she wrote.
That's all you get. There's so many innuendos in these conversations. Is that the end of the Targaryen line?
Yes.
Well,
as far as we know.
John.
Yeah, but he's
Can't
sworn
take any
to.
wives.
Yeah.
We've seen him break that before.
Let me ask you
Yes,
this
we
too.
have.
Sam has Gilly and a son, but now he's Grand Maester. Isn't it true that maesters can take no wives and
But this is a new era. This is
New
like
era.
all the rules. Everything's been overturned.
Knights can be women now.
Exactly. Everything is different. We've seen these new politics emerge in the show over the last few, I mean, really this season, but particularly in the back half of the season.
Great.
We've seen all of these new structures and things in place. So I imagine that, we can't even begin to see what the reconstruction is going to be like yet.
But what if it's
Yeah.
all just repeating itself and John went to the north to give birth to the next night king?
He
Just
marries
spread
the
the
Night Queen.
Spread the Targaryen blood among
That's
the
right.
worldlings.
That's right. The children of the forest are like, we got him now. It all. Bran, our secret agent, he finally sent us John.
By the way, that symbol, the Night King symbol, I'm
The spiral symbol.
Yes, I'm still on my rewatch, and
Yeah.
whenever they turned in season 6, whenever you get the throwback to in Bran's green sight of the first man being turned into a White Walker, they zoom out above the tree, and it's kind of the symbol of the tree.
Oh, there were a lot of parallels,
Interesting.
which is
Yeah.
I wonder if they wanted people to do that conjecturing. It had 7 essentially prongs, 7 spirals, and as did the Targaryen symbol. So
Was that the wheel?
Being broken? Oh.
Because now it's 6. Like, was that the wheel?
THX.
I don't know.
Gosh.
This is great, you guys. Let's I think we covered the episode pretty thoroughly. We're not
Yeah.
done yet. Let's roll into some news and gossip, and then after that, we can do some final thoughts.
Guys, please tell me about these leaks.
All right.
What happened?
So I'm looking at it right now, guys.
Yes, tell
I
us.
have
tea,
I
fresh
have
tea.
the Reddit thread open, and it's pretty much almost a scene by scene recap, like spark notes of the episode that aired.
Yeah.
And it was posted a few days, May 12th.
No.
So I think
Yeah.
that the leak was strategic by HBO. I think that they were starting to get a lot of bad ratings on the past few episodes, and they were like, if we give them what seems like, because who would have thought
posted
Bran
it
would have
on
sat on the
Reddit?
Iron Throne? You know what I mean? Everyone was on such a hate streak of hating on this season. And honestly, to be perfectly honest with you guys, this season I wasn't as immersed in the magic of it as I had been in previous seasons. I was more aware of like, okay, we're watching a TV show. They're kind of speeding through things to like get to the end of this, and so it kind of felt like that. But I think with this out, anyone who read it would watch, and I think it was well executed, even though you weren't expecting. Bran to sit on the throne.
Who posted it though? I mean, aren't they going to find out who posted this, and they're going to get in a lot of trouble?
Well, it's the internet, and there's the deep
Yeah.
web, and all sorts of things get pulled from different places. And
But
then
doesn't
credited.
it say a name?
Probably
Yeah, but,
fake, and it's tied to like
Any
different
can-
countries, and it links back. I mean,
Anybody
it's
can
like a
just
dark
say
place.
that like this person posted
VPN.
this.
It's a dark place.
You get a VPN, you're done.
And let's look at the effect. In our show last week, I talked a little bit about the odds and as a news element. And Bran, to my surprise, and I told you guys, and
Number
I asked
5,
you
right?
who. No, Bran was number 1. I asked you who you thought the top
Before
5
that.
But
would
like
be.
even before the leak, Bran was number
Bran,
one.
as of last week, was number 1, but he was only a little more likely than Sansa and Jon to gain the Iron Throne, according to these odds makers. By this week, he was by 20x in the odds making
Wow.
the most likely to get it. So many people came across this leak, believed it, and to the extent people were taking bets on this, changed the money flow dramatically to the point of last week, if you had bet $100, you would have won $150. Okay?
For Bran.
So, yes, for Bran. As of this week, you had to bet 500 to win 100. Just a huge swing, which means it got tons of money flowing that way.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? I mean, it's not like sports betting where there's no predetermined answer unless you're talking Back to the Future universe where you could just like have an almanac. Essentially, whoever held the script, that was the almanac to where, you could, I mean,
Yeah.
think about if you were on production for this show and you knew how it ended. what's stopping you taking all your money and throwing that in Vegas? It just makes no sense.
I know.
You know, like how can you
The IRS.
Yeah, right. I guess
Vegas, yellow.
Vegas yellow.
That's why so many shows tape multiple endings. So even their own staff and production crews. But this show is so freaking expensive and grand and huge. How are they going to do like 5 finales? They can't.
They did film some.
They film alternate scenes.
I heard they did.
Alternate scenes, not alternate complete.
Steven in the booth.
There are laws built into contracts when you're on
Yeah.
TV shows that you are not allowed to make a monetary gain on a bet based on any knowledge that you obtain on set.
That makes sense.
So all it would take is the IRS finding out, oh, you got 10 grand this last year, huh? From this, okay, well, you're in breach of contract and you owed us all this.
Interesting. Still, I'm sure people find a way to do it. And
So
it
the
is
fact that this
fascinating
was
work.
negative 500, Vegas found out, and they made it a lot tougher to win.
Well, you just change the odds, but things like this,
the odds would change.
these odds changing
based on the people who are betting.
is kind of how they know when the fix is in on a lot of other sports, and we learned the fix was in on this final episode.
The fix was in. So
Did people comment on the leak saying, oh my gosh, this was the episode leak? Like somebody leaked it? Was that the comments, or were people like, oh, this is just somebody's prediction, I don't think it's going to
The
happen?
problem was
both
the
ways.
leak for episode 5 was
Accurate.
90% correct, and then the
Right.
same person posted the leak for episode 6. So that's how people kind of knew that it was an actual
Were
legitimate
people
leak.
angry, or was the
Well, I tell you what-
Reddit title leak?
I tell you what, I wasn't very happy when I was scrolling through. There's a lot of really cool subreddits for Game of Thrones. There's like Free Folk, and then A Song of Ice and Fire, and the Game of Thrones. So I was like scrolling through Reddit, and like I stumbled across someone said something about Bran ruling, and I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, because of the leak. And I'm like, oh no, did I just read a thing? So I read like a little bit, but I didn't read the actual full play-by-play, scene-by-scene breakdown because I didn't want to, because I don't want to ruin it for myself.
Yeah.
I've been waiting like, almost a decade to see what happens, and so I kind of did see that. Okay, they picked Bran, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's so dumb." Da, 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 da. But I was like, "Okay, I hope that."
That was the troll of the internet voice you heard right there.
I hoped it wasn't true because I didn't. It's not that I didn't want it to happen, or I didn't think Bran would have made a good choice. It was just that I didn't want to have read a leak, know.
Yeah.
Right.
But the fact that I knew it, I think it might have jaded my opinion as to how like awesome it was. But I really did enjoy the episode. And I really thought it was an appropriate, nice way to wrap everything up. And so I'm not upset at all, but I am upset that there was a leak because that's not fun or fair for anybody. And it's not like I went looking for it; it just was on the internet. So like, you don't want to. You just gotta stick your head in the sand if you don't want to like find out any leaks in this world.
I personally hope that most fans are not as devoted almost and reading so many things as we have to prepare for this. And I accidentally came across stuff. So hopefully
and you read the
still tens of millions of people enjoyed this without that knowledge. And hopefully that's the way it was experienced.
I don't
by
even
most.
watch trailers for movies that I go to. I just look at the Rotten Tomatoes score and decide, and like word of mouth and the people I respect. Like, I hate spoilers, so I'm so glad I didn't read it. Sorry if
sometimes
you
a
did.
trailer really does ruin it. They showed me the whole movie in 30 seconds.
Yeah, pretty
know?
much. I really hope this person gets in trouble, honestly. I think that's like just so disgraceful.
Yeah.
Even when we're walking around our studio here, like we shut the door, we make sure. I think we were saying like fake stuff.
Yeah, we're on the hallway. We're like, what would you say, Steven? It's like, oh yeah, I can't believe they brought the Night King back. Or
I said that,
You said that. I was like, God, that was so many dragons. There's like 1,000 dragons.
Yeah, but we are so respectful of that, and I don't like that person that posted those leaks. I just can't believe that. I really want to know who that person was. They must have been working on production, like you guys are saying. They must have been. How would they know? They must have been in the interwebs of HBO. I don't know.
I don't know, but let's put our pitchforks down for a second.
Okay, fine.
The leak happened. It was right. We hope that your story wasn't ruined, but let us know. Like, still don't know what that.
What is that?
It's the leak.
It's the
leak.
Do we just have one sound
And
effect?
honestly-
We need a bigger budget.
honestly, it sounds.
Press that thumbs up if you want us to have a bigger budget.
It sounds
Steven,
like
will you give me
you're-
a laser? Give me a laser.
I know you got lasers back
Wait
there.
a second.
There you go. That's the laser.
Sounds like,
Oh my god, stop. It sounds so like
you're
moist.
squishing tomatoes
It sounds
or
too wet.
the bugs.
smash the Beatles.
Oh my
Smash them.
gosh. Wait, I got another piece of news, guys.
Okay.
We got more news.
We may have a still. I sent some stills in. I don't know if we have them, but this is random, guys. So apparently, Green Bay's NFL MVP Aaron Rodgers is a huge Game of Thrones fan. A lot of celebrities
Yeah.
are. I always bring a lot of celebrity news.
Yeah.
Did you know he was actually in last week's episode, The Bells, several times?
Yeah.
As different background actors.
This is
characters.
ridiculous to me.
So he said he posted an Instagram, and he says that he was thankful to have been in the penultimate episode of Game of Thrones. #crazy episode tonight, and it shows a picture of him. You guys can check it out on his Instagram. He's a public figure and has millions of followers, so just
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah.
But just so cute and funny. And then someone else took a screenshot and did a side by side of all the times he was in the episode. So he's
Surprisingly
an archer.
a lot.
Yeah, he's an archer for the King's Landing army. He is a man, the guy that we saw getting blown up in the alleyway, and then he is sort of like this background King's Landing like popper in 2 other scenes. So he's in that episode like 4 times.
To be honest, guys, like I don't even really like that because I feel like they could have spent time on us believing more of like Daenerys going mad, which I'm fine with now, but we still needed like one more scene to that, I would say. And
Maybe a
said
little bit more,
they
yeah.
let like a quarterback, a big fan, be in all these scenes. Like not to take away from him, but like what's the focus of this show?
Are
Like,
you blaming
making
Aaron Rodgers now?
I am. It's his fault. Like a lot of the focus was given to Aaron Rodgers and putting him in.
Aaron
He was a big
Rodgers.
fan of the show.
Yes, Aaron
We're making
Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers' dreams come true instead of like giving Daenerys believable plot points. I mean, what's more important here? I just give up.
Oh, Kristen's on a rampage tonight.
We have a
I'm
mad,
angry.
she's
I'm
mad
I'm
Kristen.
mad. And
I do have some news and gossip really quick. Just a quick shout out mention. We had Liam Cunningham in studio 2 weeks ago for a pre-taped interview about his brand new show, The Hot Zone, coming to Nat Geo.
Very
Which is
cool.
about the Ebola
Wow.
outbreak in America. It's he's a really nice guy. He was really a pleasure to be
He
around.
is so nice, isn't he?
And
he leaked the entire show on Reddit.
but no,
Just kidding.
the interview comes out tomorrow on AfterBuzz
That's
TV,
awesome.
YouTube.com/AfterBuzzTV. If you guys are a fan of Sir Davos,
Yes.
Check it
Definitely a
out.
fan of Sir Davos. That's awesome he was here.
also
Yeah.
hit that thumbs up because I'm telling you to.
Yes.
Do it. Make our dreams come true.
Yeah, how many thumbs up should we request? Like, it'd be awesome if we could get to what, like 3,000 thumbs up? Like the rest of the Unsullied?
3,000 thumbs up, and Kristen will send you a private raven.
What's happening?
Well, you're not Peter Baelish. Don't whore me out.
Even Sir Davos still has a thumb. So hopefully he.
If we lose half our thumbs up today, we'll have twice as many tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's how the numbers work.
But you guys are still going
War.
to cover the documentary and do a series recap.
Yes.
That's right. I might not be here next week, but next week you guys will be here. We have
We'll be here.
Game of Thrones has a documentary series that's coming out on HBO next week. We're gonna you guys check that out and then come watch because I'm sure there's a lot of fun things to do. Kristen and I sometimes we do a show on Popcorn Talk here in the same studio called Inside the Documentary. We might be doing an episode maybe dedicated to that. Who
Yeah,
knows?
we could post it in both sections of AfterBuzz.
Yeah. So stay in touch. Hit subscribe because we do have more videos coming your way. Just to bring it back, Aaron Rodgers. I thought it was a cool thing to have a really cool person as an extra, maybe in one scene. But I think to have in several, a lot, it's almost
But they were
potentially.
minor. It was like fanfare finding him. It was just
Yeah,
like.
but to have multiple,
I know.
it just breaks the
Why
the
does he get
reality.
to be part of
no,
it?
No, look, there is one extra who I thought was really fascinating. I guess his name is Andrew. He's this extra who has been in so many scenes throughout the entire series. Oh man, I wish I submitted a picture for this one. I'm sorry, Steven. Maybe you can find a picture of him. Look up.
The bearded guy?
He's the bearded guy.
And
There's
they
this-
showed his eyes turn blue in 2 episodes ago.
he was one of the guys who came back as a white during the major.
I have a
Battle
picture of him
Winterfell.
on my phone.
Is
Yes.
that who you thought was Howland
Yes,
Reed?
this
That
guy.
was the guy you
Oh,
had Farron theoried
Dan
about,
was
right?
obsessed with the Howland Reed theory.
And I said it was background actor
He
number
showed
one.
up so many places, and he was the person.
That's
the
right,
third
you
person
had-
to
yeah.
declare Jon Snow King of the North. I thought we were gonna see. There he is.
Yeah.
I thought
There
we were
he
gonna
is.
see him play, and he, in the midst of Ed and Lady Lyanna and other famous characters becoming the whites with the blue eyes, they flashed to
There he
him
is.
becoming the White. And
The true hero of Westeros.
Yes.
The unnamed soldier.
The real Aaron Rodgers.
The real Aaron Rodgers.
Will you please stand up and make yourselves shown?
I thought he had a
whatever.
bigger future ahead. I really thought I had
Well, the Green
unraveled
Bay
the whole key to the
Packers
show.
still need another quarterback, so there he is.
The real Aaron Rodgers. I love it. There was a lot of fun little Easter eggs in this show. If you guys know of any other Easter, I know I always throw it to you guys, but I do that because the people who watch our show here on YouTube and iTunes, you guys are the coolest fandom that anyone could ask for. So to read your comments and every time we
And the
throw it
most
to
accurate.
you, it's so great.
You
So
guys know
please
what's
keep it
up.
up. It's really awesome. I know this video will be online forever. So whenever you do happen to discover this show, or if you're a fan already, just throw a comment, throw a thumbs up. We love to see them and read them.
Yeah.
Any more gossip and news?
Well, just the fact that we're also, like Steven said, going to do a wrap-up show after the documentary next week.
That's
Then we're
big
going
news.
to do the wrap-up
Great.
of all the seasons and all of our thoughts and
Yeah.
everybody's path and how we got to where we got to.
I
A celebration episode for the fans.
Yes. A final thoughts for the entire. I mean, it's been 8-9 years.
So many years.
Might as well have an episode.
Pretty
to
much
talk.
my entire time in Los Angeles, I've been talking about Game of Thrones.
Yeah. You're doing it for
It's a long time.
over 4 years now. You and I. You were in there for what, 6 years?
I came in season 2. I'm the only remaining panelist. I survived, so
You survived.
yes.
As we look for the next Game of Thrones, though, guys, we cover all sorts of TV shows here at AfterBuzz TV, and if
That's
you
right.
love a TV show, we cover over 100 of them every week. So you'll probably see these familiar faces between Ryan, Anna, Jeremy, covering Chernobyl right now, and
Yep.
Kristen, who came from Teen Wolf, did Game of Thrones, and is going to move on to her next project too. Guys, stay tuned.
That's
Tune in
right.
AfterBuzz for it.
Yeah, chances are if there's a show, we got an after show for it. So just search your favorite show with AfterBuzz TV, and chances are some super fans like us are going to be talking about it. Anything else, guys, before we wrap it up? I hate to do it. I'm trying to
So
avoid it. We're already at
sad.
like an hour and 40 minutes. Thank God for you guys hanging in there with us. This whole show has been so much fun. I couldn't have asked for a better team of people to work with all these years, and all these episodes have just been so emotionally draining. I'm spent. Let's go, Greg. Drink some wine.
He just strangled himself with his wiring.
Drink some wine.
Where can we follow you guys?
Oh man.
I'm gonna go binge watch the rest of the series, from 1 to 8. And while in between my binge watching of my favorite show, you guys can find me at Ryan Malaty everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, and in Los Angeles somewhere.
At a brothel, no
Just look up
less.
Peter Baelish, you'll see Ryan
At a
Malaty.
brothel,
Oh god.
protecting my
I'm cutting you
investments.
off. Guys, I'm Anna K. Thomas. It's been real. You can find me everywhere, especially on Instagram at Anna K. Thomas. I can't take it anymore.
Guys, I have had such an amazing time talking Game of Thrones with you guys for the past, I don't even know how many years. Not enough, I'll tell you that. Hopefully we'll be back for all the prequels, and hopefully
Prequels, the
the
documentary,
sequels.
the
Yes.
series
you
rundown.
can follow me at Cinematic Escape on all the realms, and I hope you do.
And I'm Jeremy Dann. You can't follow me anywhere, but follow me on Tuesday when I'm here for their Chernobyl show. It's a great show.
Yes.
Great show, real serious, real epic in its own way. Watch it before you cancel your HBO subscription. Just work that in over the next few weeks. Yes.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that's it from all of us here at AfterBuzz TV. Vala Morgules.
Valor de Harris.
And good night.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.